only I get.
Yama, yeah, ready to start, please.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yo antah pravishya mama vacha imam prashuptam sanjeevayati akhila shakti darasvadamna अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान् प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथाभूतं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So, Happy New Year, everyone. So, I'm sure you all had a wonderful break with family, friends. I know some of you have been traveling far and wide. So, I hope all your journeys and holidays were fine and safe, and you're all back fully rejuvenated to start the new year. I hope the new year brings a bit more of positive aspects of life. 2 years feels like we've all been in this imprisonment. Hopefully there is some release for us in 2022. So on that note, let's get started with our Katha Upanishad. And as you know, we have done 3 sessions already, and we have completed, or we have covered about 3/4, or I would say 3/4 of the first Valli of the first Adhyaya. So just to give you an idea, Katha Upanishad, as you know, is part of the Krishna Yajur Veda. And we always pay our obeisance to the Rishi. So the Rishi here is Nachiketa, Yama, and of course Badarayana, Chaturmukha Brahma, and Narayana himself. They are all our Rishis. Devata here is of course Vamana Namaka Paramatma, and he is the Devata for this, as you will see in the subsequent Vallis, as how Yama talks about this Vamana who is there in the Hridaya Akasha of the souls. Then the Chandas here is Anushtup Chandas. So we recognize that, and of course we also have to recognize the Kata Rishi, who is the primary Rishi who has seen this Upanishad, and he has passed it down the generations. Okay, so previously we looked at quite a few verses. So today we have quite a lot of substance to cover. So I hope you have done some homework, and some of you probably linked on to that YouTube session, the part 3 that Abhijit had uploaded. I hope you've had time to look at it. So I don't want to go into individual verses, but just to give you an overview. So the situation is such that Uddalaka Aruni, a very learned Rishi, a learned Vedic scholar, performs Vishwajit Yajna so that he could go to Swargaloka. So as a part of the Vishwajit Yajna, one of the ceremonies that is involved is you give away all your wealth. And in the Vedic times, wealth means cows. So Uddalakaruni had to give all his cows. So, but what this Rishi was doing is he was giving all those old and useless cows to all the people who had come to attend the Vishwajit Yajna, and his dad and his son, of course, was looking at all this, and then he's got compassion. He's not rude enough to go to his dad and scold him, but he wants to use an approach by which he could offer himself so that his father could give him as a dakshina to some of the brahmanas who are there, so that he could serve their households, and in that process his dad would get some punya. So that with that intention, he asked Sahovacha Pitaram Tata Kasmai Mam Dasyati iti. Dvitiyam Tritiyam Tam Hovacha Mrityavetva Dadamiti. So his dad, lost the fuse. He got upset. He asked him thrice. So he said, Mrityavetva Dadamiti. I'm going to give you to Mrityu. Okay, Mrityu, as you know, is Yama. So basically saying, go to hell, get lost, go and just disappear. So it's what the kind of language that we use in modern times, and Uddalaka has used a similar kind of approach. in the Vedic times of saying Mrityavetva Dadanti. So our friend immediately, as you know, we have had that discussion as to whether this was a vision for Nachiketa, or did he really fall down and he started walking towards Yamaloka. So we've looked at all this, or is it just a fancy story? So we looked at all those approaches. The one that I favor is that this is a vision for Nachiketa as he falls down. And as he has this vision, he makes some very profound philosophical statements, and we spend endless time talking about it. Bahunamemi pratamo, bahunamemi madhyamaha, kim svidyamasya kartavyam yanmaya adya karishyati. So he says, let me go towards Yamaloka. This is not a new thing. I'm not the first person who is going to go to Yamaloka. The queue to Yamaloka is always there. It's always full. Let me go as somebody in the middle, or let me be the first person behind me. All these souls are going to follow. So what is so unique about this? I will go, but my only issue here is what use am I going to be for Yama? I'm not going to be of any use to him. At least if my dad has given me off to some Brahmana here, I would have served him. But to Yama, what am I going to serve? I am not capable of becoming a Yamaduta, for example. How am I going to serve Yama? And in that process, how is it that my dad is going to get some benefit from all this? So that is the feeling, that is the spirit in which Yama makes that journey. And then, of course, the Yamadutas at that point, the ones that take him, he makes a very profound statement. Anupashya yata purve pratipashya tata pare sasyamiva martyaha pachyate sasyamiva jayate punaha. This is again a famous statement where the Yamadutas are saying, look at all these souls who are being boiled in Kumbhipaka. Look at how they are all suffering. This is how it has always been, and this is how it is going to be in the future as well. They are all being cooked like vegetables, but they will be cooked for some time, and then they'll again go back to Mrityaloka, and they will all go through this cycle of life, birth, going to Yamaloka, suffering, and coming back, and so on. This is what samsara is all about. So I've highlighted these three verses because I think it's worth memorizing these verses because they are so philosophically profound. Every time we wake up in the morning and go about our daily lives, let us not forget that we are one step closer to Yamaloka. Every day is one step close. Every new year is one step close to Yamaloka. So with that spirit, I think if we approach our life, then we realize the time is very limited at our disposal with regards to what kind of sadhanas that we are going to do. Nevertheless, our friend Nachiketa goes to Yamaloka, waits there for 3 days. Then Yama appears. He says, you have been waiting for 3 nights. I'm going to give you 3 boons. So his first boon, of course, is Shanta Shankalpaha Sumana Yatasya Vitamanyuhu Gautamo Ma Abhibrutyoho Tvat Prasrishtaha Mam Avivadet Pratitaha Yetat Trayanam Pratamam Varan Purine. So he said, make my dad sensible. Let him see me with affection. Let me go back to the body that I left. And when I wake up, let my dad recognize me that I am the same Nachiketa. Let him have good sense. Let him be affectionate to me. Let him make proper danas and so on. And let him have proper sleep in the sense that let him be happy. So Yama says, so be it. Okay. So he gave him the first vada. So in the last week, we were doing some discussions around what the second vara or the boon that Nachiketa asks. And the background to that, of course, is our friend Nachiketa has seen his dad doing the Vishwajit Yajna with the selfish intention of going to the heavenly planets to enjoy all the heavenly pleasures. And it is with that intention he did the Vishwajit Yajna. Nachiketa has a different approach to this. He wants to know about that yajna by which he can go to the ultimate Swargaloka, which is moksha. Yeah. So the ultimate Swargaloka actually is moksha. And in the Parama Mukhya Vritti of Vedic literature, when I say Swarga, I actually mean moksha. Okay, Vaikunta. And we have done the etymology of this in previous classes. Please go back to those slides. So Swarge loke nabayam kinchanatsti natatratvam na jaraya bibeti ube tirtva ashana pipase shokadiko motate swargaloke. Saha tvam agnim swargyam adyeshi mrityoho prabruhi tvam shraddadanahyamahyam. Swargaloke amrutatvam bhajante yetad dvitiyena vrune Varena. So our friend said, you know what my second boon is? I want to go to that permanent Swargaloka, and I am told to go to that Swargaloka, you have to approach this yajna, this fire sacrifice, entirely differently. There is an entirely different approach to a fire sacrifice rather than a mere ritual or something that will take you to a heavenly planet and again ultimately bring you back to Mrityuloka. I am told that there is this Swargyam Agnim. I want to know about that so that I want to reach this permanent, eternal Swarga, Vaikuntha, or Moksha. So our friend Nachiketa is highly ambitious. He just doesn't want to go to heavenly planets, but he wants to go to Moksha. And I would submit, like, we should be like Nachiketa. We should not be like the Shvetaketu of Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 6. We should all aim to be like Nachiketa of Katha Upanishad. Okay, so when we discussed about this Agni, of course, there are various types of Agnis in our Vedic literature: material Agni, Pradhana Agni, Kala Agni Rudra, Prana Agni, Chaturmukha, Kala Agni Durga, Agni Narayana. So what is it that the Agni that Nachiketa is talking about? And we spent in the last session, talking about this Agni that Nachiketa wants, that Agni Narayana that Nachiketa wants to know about, so that by knowing him, he can cross over to the non-material platform and go to Vaikuntha. So that Agni, that fire, who is that Agni? And we have discussed a lot, and I just want to put it in here just so that this is such a popular verse, always worth reciting. Chapter 15, 14th verse. Could I request one of you to take this up, please? Who wants to take up this most famous verse?
Can I?
Go for it, Pragnesh.
Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamasrita Pranapana Samayukta Paschamyanam Chaturvidam.
Thank you, Pragnesh. Very well recited. So we established that fire, Vaishwanaraha, fire has got various names, isn't it, in Vedic literature? Vaishwanara is fire. What did Krishna say here? Aham Vaishwanaraha. That fire that Nachiketa is talking about, Swargyam Agnim, is Aham Vaishwanaraha, who is Krishna or Agni Narayana. So the internal evidence within the Veda, within the Upanishad, and also the evidence within the Gita, as well as the Sutra. There is a famous Sutra, which is Vaishwanara Adhikaranam. There is a Sutra itself, there is Adhikaranam by Veda Vyasa to establish who is Vaishwanaraha. Vaishwanaraha Sadharana Shabda Viseshat. So that's a Sutra of Veda Vyasa that settles this. So when we do our Vedic studies or Gita study or whatever study, and I'm never tired saying this, we should always use Prasthana Trayas. The Sutra Prasthana, the Gita Prasthana, the Upanishad Prasthana. Put all the three and do a comparative analysis and understand what is it that Nachiketa is asking for. So our Nachiketa is asking about knowing that Krishna, that Agni Narayana, who is celebrated in the very first sukta of Rig Veda, as you know, as Agnimile Purohitam, Yajnasya Devam Rutvijam, Hotaram Ratnadatam. Okay, so this is all that we have covered so far. So this is a Simhavalokana Nyaya of actually giving you a quick recap as to where we are. We are in that area of talking about Agni. We're talking about fire. Yeah. So now there is an important. So once our Nachiketa has asked about this, Yama is extremely happy. Yeah, he's extremely happy because unlike his dad, Nachiketa is actually asking a very, very important question, which is, what is the underlying philosophy of all the rituals that we do? Yeah, it's no point just doing the rituals like the Purva Mimamsakas, who will just do some rituals and say we will go to Swargaloka, and that is the end of it. But what we need to understand is the Uttara Mimamsa of this, which is what is the philosophy behind this? Why do we do this? And that is what Nachiketa is asking on all our behalf. And Yama is very, very happy when Nachiketa asks this question, and he goes through a whole piece of philosophical discussion. Now, this is what I want to focus on here today. We have done one or two verses already, but let's see how it goes. I know I've got too many slides here because there is so much to be said, but within the time that we have, maybe another hour or so, let me cover as much as I can. So what did Yama say immediately? Prate me bravimi tadume niboda swargyamagnim nachiketaha prajanan ananta lokaptim ato pratishtam viddi tvam yetam nihitam guhayam lokadimagnim tamuvacha tasmai ya ishtakaha yavatirva yatava Trinachiketaha tribiretya sandhim trikarma krit tarati janma mrutyuhu brahmajagnam devamidvyam viditva nichayam imam shantim atyantameti Trinachiketaha trayametat viditva ye evam vidvan chinute nachiketam samrutyupashan purataha pranodya shokatigo modate swargaloke. So these are the three verses I put in red, and I'm hoping that I'll cover these verses today. So these are profound. I mean, I can't stress enough that these are profound statements of deep philosophy by Yama. We'll try and tackle this a little bit. So we've done this particular verse last time. Prate Bravimi Tadume Niboda. I will explain to you. Well, please listen to me. Swargyamagnim Nachiketaha Prajanan. What is it that I'm going to explain? This Swargyamagnim. Nachiketaha Prajanan. Two things there. Nachiketa is Prajanan. Janan means somebody who knows. Prajanan means Prakrishta Janan, he who knows well. So Yama says, I know this Swargyamagnim quite well, Nachiketa, and I'll explain to you. And at the same time, you are also Prajanan. You are also an intelligent boy who has the capacity to understand this. So let me explain to you, and he will start off immediately. Anantalokaptim ato pratishtam. Who is this Swargya Agnim? He is called Anantalokapti. And also the person who knows this Anantalokapti, what is the benefit for him? He goes to Anantaloka Aptim. Anantaloka means infinite world. Ananta means infinite. Loka means place. What is that infinite place? The trans-material world, or the Vaikunta, is considered as an area of infinite. There is no limit to Vaikunta. It goes on forever. Okay, so the person who knows about this Agni not only goes to the Anantaloka, but Pratishtam. Pratishtam means he goes there and stays there forever. Yeah. So as you know, the last sutra of Veda Vyasa is also the same. Anavrittir Shabdat, Anavrittir Shabdat. So one who goes to moksha never returns. That is the benefit of actually knowing about this Swargyamagnim, is the declaration of Yama. So we need to watch what he is saying extremely carefully. And the way to read this verse is also in another angle. You can say, in that place, that infinite abode, is this Anantalokapti. So Anantalokapti is also name of Narayana or Vishnu, who is there in Vaikunta, because he is the person who gives this benefit to the souls. So he is called Anantalokapti, and he is Pratishtam. He is not only there, but he supports the jivas there. So then he puts a very, very important statement. He says, Viddi tvam yetam nihitam guhayam. The beauty of this is, you know, that chap who is there in moksha as Anantalokapti and who is in the non-material plane in a region which is infinite, actually that person is right inside your heart. Viddi tvam yetam nihitam guhayam. So this is a very, very important concept of Antaryamin, that the Supreme Soul is inside the Jiva. As his Antaryamin is what Yama is saying. It is the same Antaryamin who is also in the Vaikunta as Anantalokapti. Okay. So the key statement from Yama there is, search for that Agni Narayana inside you. Yeah, search for him inside you. Yes, go to temples, go do all these things. That is fine. But ultimately, unless you search for him inside you, you will never attain moksha. So that is a key point there. Yeah, we are not going to moksha just because we are going to go to temples and do some rituals. Period. That is not going to happen. It is a means, but ultimately you got to search for him inside you, who is where? Nihitam Guhayam. So next, what happens? So what did he teach about that Agni and the sacrifice then? He said, so far he has said, these are all the benefits if you know about the Swargyamagnim, that is, you will go to moksha. And he said that person about whom you want to know is actually inside you. So now he goes and describes about him a little bit more. So Yama taught about that Agni to Nachiketa. So who is that Agni? So in the very first verse, he introduces who this Agni is. Lokadim Agnim Tamuvacha Tasmai. Okay. Who is this Agni? His Agni, this word Agni is prefixed by Lokadim. Okay, important. So that is why important to look at these words and split them open and understand who is this Agni that Nachiketa is talking about. So when you look at the internal evidence, this is absolutely not the material Agni. This is absolutely not the Agni Devata or Pavaka. Absolutely not. Why? Because Yama qualifies this Agni as Lokadim Agnim. So Loka and Adim. Loka means this material universe. Adim means two things. One, he who is the origin of this material universe, or he who was even there before the material universe was brought into being, he who was there. Okay, so we know Sadeva Somya Idamagra Asid Yekameva Advitiyam, Chandogya chapter 6. Yeah, similarly, the Lokadi Magnim can be two ways. He who is the creator of this universe, or he who existed even before the coming forth of this universe. So that is what our Sutrakara has defined Brahman as Janmadhyasya Yataha. So Lokadimagnim Tamuvacha Tasmai. So this Lokadimagnim, I'm going to tell you about this. So what did he teach about that Agni sacrifice? Here is the beauty of what Yama is saying and the cultural background in which Vedic philosophy has come down over thousands of years. So what did he say? The Upanishad says this. We have not done this verse. So this is a new verse for us for this week. Ya ishtakaha Yavatirva Yatava. That is all Yama has said. Or that is how Kata Rishi has seen this in this Upanishad. Ya ishtakaha Yavatirva Yatava. So these are very important three words. And I presume the rest of the talk today will be focused on this with a lot of interactional discussions. So when you do a fire sacrifice, so when you're doing a ritual, when you go to your temple and do a havan, what is there? There are bricks. Yeah. So he's talking about the bricks here. Ya ishtakaha. Ishtaka means bricks. Okay. You have these bricks which are used to make the kunda. So he says, what did Yama explain? All that the Upanishad says here is Yama explained about this. Ya ishtakaha. What type of bricks? Yavatihi, how many bricks? Yatava, how to contemplate the bricks. Okay, that is all Yama describes here. Okay, so this is very, very puzzling. It's very cryptic with regards to, so what sense do we make out of it? What type of bricks? How many bricks? How to contemplate? This is what Yama taught Nachiketa. That is what the Upanishad says. Yeah, only mentioned but not described in the Upanishad. Okay, this is a cryptic statement that will be well worth our time to dissect out what is it that Yama is saying. So to understand this, let's look at the next slide. Okay, so I got a kunda here, yeah, a fire sacrifice. Let us say it's Vishwajit or any havan that you do in the temple. It's got bricks. So what does a kunda need? A fixed number of certain type of bricks laid in a certain fashion to facilitate certain way of contemplation. So that is the reason why there is this havan or the kunda. Okay, but our friend Yama said, what did he say in the previous verse? He said, Ya ishtakaha yavatirva yatava. That is all the Upanishads had said. Now that should give us a hint about why Yama has not gone and described this, and Kata. Yama would have described this to Nachiketa, but Kata Rishi, when he sees this, he has not said that. What exactly did Yama actually teach Nachiketa? So why is that the case? So I have actually, this is a quiz. So we have, as you know, we have done Mundaka Upanishad, we have Chandogya Upanishad, and now we are doing Katha Upanishad. And every time we have done an Upanishad, we have always spent an introduction talking about what does the word Upanishad mean? So I have listed a few definitions that you will all be familiar already. Upanishandam Brahma Tattvam Atreti Upanishad, Upanishadayati, Upanishadana, Upari, Upara, Upa plus Ni plus Shad, and then Upahvara iti Upanishad. Okay, Upahvara is one of the meanings of what Upanishad is. So it is a quick quiz before and I'm able to sip a couple of some water. What does Upahvara actually mean? Anybody wants to take a go on this, please? The clue is within the slide.
Secret.
Well done, Pratibhaji. Excellent. So that's a good answer. So Upahvara means a solitary place, a secretive place where you discuss the sacred philosophy. Yeah. Upanishad is not to be discussed on the streets. You don't put a table and you don't have a few books and say, this is Katha Upanishad, can people come and read it and so on. Upanishad is not sold on the streets. We do not do that. Vedic philosophers never did that because they kept certain things secret. Therefore, the one that has the aptitude for it can actually find it out themselves through a guru. Yeah, so that is one concept I wanted to bring here as to when I said Upahvara or a secret philosophy is Upanishad. I have to give you some examples, right? So this is an example. You will see this quite often in many Upanishads. For example, in Shatrashna Upanishad, when the 6 rishis visit Pippalada Rishi, Pippalada will not give the secrets out very quickly. He will ask them to go and stay in his Gurukula for a year and do all the chores. He'll test the aptitude of the students and then he will give them the answers to their 6 questions. Like this, there are several incidents in the Vedic times that clearly indicate to us that we Hindus, we practitioners of the Sanatana Dharma, do not sell our philosophies on the streets. This is only a secret philosophy, a sacred philosophy for only those who have the aptitude for it. Okay, so Kata Rishi, that is the background in which the Upanishad teach. Yatava, Yavatirva, Ya Ishtakaha. So we need to dissect it out by learning this from a guru. Yeah, so whatever I have learned from my gurus about what is it that Yama taught to Nachiketa, I'm going to just pass it on to you. Okay, whatever I have learned from my guru. So what is that? So this is a beautiful concept. This is an amazing concept when Yama actually says, Ya Ishtakaha Yavatirva Yatava. Ishtaka means bricks, as you know, but the etymology of Ishtaka, I think we have done it last week. Have a think about it. Yeah, go back to last week's slides. As to what is the etymology of Ishtaka? Ishtaka means Ishta plus Ka. Ishta means that which we like. Ka means Ananda. So what is that one with this infinite Ananda that we like? Ishtaka actually is a name of Brahman. Yeah, Ishta plus Ka. Okay, so that is how when you look at that breaking up of philosophy, then the words become important and interesting. So at the same time, this Kunda. So when our Vedic philosophers put all these things about, for example, Yajur Veda is a Veda of Yajana, of all the rituals. If you go to Brahmana text, Brahmanas will have a lot of prescriptions for various rituals. But these rituals are not to be just looked at from a superficial perspective. If you look at it from a superficial perspective, it becomes a karma kanda. That is only our problem. It is not the Vedas problem. It is our problem. But Vedas have a deep philosophy there, full of numerology, mathematics, and what have you. So I will illustrate this. So when he says Kunda, and in philosophy, whenever we talk about Kunda, which is a part of Brahmanda. So this is outside. This is material world, isn't it? The Kunda, the bricks is material world. Okay. But we should also think about our Pinda, because we are actually what stardust. Whatever we made, whatever matter a brick is made of, the similar kind of matter is what this body is made of. So we should think about Pinda. then we should also have a thinking about Kala, the time in which the the souls which have a material body spend their time on this Mrityu Loka. So there are three concepts: Kunda, Pinda, and Kala. So this is what Yama is telling as to how you do that fire sacrifice from a Kunda's perspective, from a Pinda's perspective, and from a Kala perspective. So let us look at the first view, the Kunda perspective, which is more easier for us. So Ya Ishtakaha, and I've already given you the etymology of that. Ishta plus Ka, our favorite, Anandamaya. Okay, that is one etymology. I just want you to hold it in your thought. So Kunda has bricks. So you have the bricks. Okay, so the next question is, how many bricks? Yeah, Ya Ishtakaha. Yeah, Yavatirva. Yavatirva means how many bricks. So Yama said, when you do this Kunda, you have bricks and you have 360 bricks. Okay, so now here is a fascinating thought of Vedic philosophers and Vedic mathematicians, and this predates something like 2000, 3000, you name it, years ago, where the number 360, the Vedic philosophers and the mathematicians always viewed 360 as a symbol of completeness, 360 as Purna. Okay, that is hardly surprising thinking about it now after us having gone to the schools of mathematics, because 360 is a full circle, 0 degrees to 360 degrees. So the Vedic philosophers always knew 360 means Purna. Okay, Purna signifies whom? Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnameva Avashishyate. The Shanti mantra of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad that celebrates this Purna, the complete, the infinite, the Brahman. Okay, 360 always was a number that somehow was linked with completeness, of Purnatva, of somebody which is without defects, God, for a supreme being, for example. So hold on to that idea of 360, which has been in Vedic philosophy for thousands and thousands of years, not the new advent of geometry over the last several hundred years. Okay, so that brick, Yama first said, that brick has 360 bricks because the number 360 is a significance of Brahman. How to contemplate that Kunda with the bricks? That, as you know from Taittiriya Upanishad, Yat Srishtva Tat Srishtva Tadeva Anupravishat. Whatever the Supreme created, he pervaded into it and maintained their existence, their objecthood of knowledge and volition. Satta, Pramiti, and Pravriti. So these are all core ideas of Vedic philosophy. So if you take that view, so Yatava means how to contemplate. You have to contemplate that bricks, each brick is pervaded by Brahman. Okay, and how many bricks? 36. Why? I mean 360. Why 360? Because 360 indicates a complete circle, or the Brahman who is complete. Okay, now we have a famous verse, right? 424. Who is going to pick this up? The 424 verse, please. That actually brings about these concepts. And as I've said, Katha Upanishad and Gita, they cannot be separated. When you see a verse in Katha, you should take a verse from Gita. If you see a verse from Gita, you should think about a verse in Katha Upanishad, because the philosophy is very similar. So who is going to recite 424, please? Suresh, are you there? Sorry, who is that? Go for it, Manjunath Deshilaji.
Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmeva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina.
Thank you, Shilaji. Very beautifully recited. So again, go back to this verse and see what the purport of this is, where Krishna describes, every component of that Vedic sacrifice is pervaded by me. Yeah, so that is because I am everywhere. So the Vedic sacrifice that you do is pervaded by me. That is the yatava that Yama has said for the philosophical understanding of how a fire act, the physiology and anatomy of the fire sacrifice should be viewed at, should be approached, not just throwing stuff into the fire. We have to contemplate this way as how Yama has taught to Nachiketa. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. The next concept is Pinda. So this gets very interesting. So Kunda is about outside. So, but as you know, Yama has already said this supreme being who is outside, he is also inside you as your Antaryaman. He is Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha. He is already, Krishna has already said that. And that exactly is what Yama is saying. You need to have a second approach to this, what I have said. Ya Ishtakaha. In a human body, the contemplation there is the bricks or your bones are your bricks. Yeah, beautiful concept. So in your body, when you view this Vedic sacrifice that you do, you throw in food, your indriyas are receiving ahutis from the external world, and you're putting food, water, everything into this body. See that as a kunda, see that as a Vedic altar. How that one has got bricks. What are those bricks? The bricks are the bones of your body. Okay, this is interesting. I want to spend some time on this. So 300 Vedic anatomist. Yeah, so the surgeons in this group will have a different view, particularly Shushruta, who is there. So Atharva Veda, for example, has actually documented that the number of human bones is 360. Charaka, the famous physician of Vedic times, also documents the number of bones in the body is 360. Shushruta, the plastic surgeon, documents the number of bones in the body as 300. And of course, the modern anatomists, they say when you're born, you have 270 and various things fuse. And when you're an adult, you have 206. Okay, so those are all the numbers, but I leave it to you to take up what is the right answer here. Is it the modern anatomy or what the Atharva Veda has described? But what I need to say here is Atharva Veda's approach to anatomy is slightly different from modern anatomy. For those of you who are interested in this, there's a lot of material in the internet for you to look at. Okay, so that is for academic discussion, but here it is the spirit. I am interested in the spirit in which the Rishi is asking us to contemplate our own body. Yeah, so let us take the view of Charaka and Atharva Veda. So we have 360 bones. So the Vedic Rishi said 360 bones has 360 marrows. Each bones has got marrows. So who is going to say in Sanskrit what is marrows? Just a quiz that occurred to me now. What is the Sanskrit word for marrow? Pragnesh.
Majja.
Majja. Well done. Sushrut also got this right. So majja is marrows. So if you have 360 bones, you will have 360 marrows. But Atharva Veda also documents that there are 360 joints in the human body, and there is no debate with modern anatomy. Modern anatomy also says there are 360 joints in the body. Okay, so I hope you understand where I'm getting at, trying to bring some kind of similarity here of philosophical contemplation within the human body. So 360 comes in the human body quite often, joints, marrows, and bones, like the 360 bricks that you need to place them in a certain design to do the Vedic fire sacrifice. Now, here is an interesting thing about mathematics and numbers, which at least my guru has taught, and I want to share that with enthusiasm with you. You take 360 bones, 360 marrows, and 360 joints. You add them together, you get 1080. 1000 plus 80. So for those of you who recite Vishnu Sahasranama, and I know there are many friends in this group who recite that with great devotion. Vishnu Sahasranama, Sahasra, 1000. Okay, so there are 1000 names of Vishnu in Vishnu Sahasranama. But there are also other words in Vishnu Sahasranama like Cha, Iha, Eva, Tu, all those other words will be there when you do the Vishnu Sahasranama. So if you add them together, That is 80. Go and check yourself. Do that homework. How many Chakara Eva is there in Vishnu Sahasranama? So you have 80. So 1000 plus 80 is 1080, which is the same as the 1080 that you get when you add bones, marrows, and joints. Okay. Now here is another interesting idea that you may want to develop. Okay? In another forum we were talking about this very briefly this morning about something called Brahati Sahasra. Okay, anybody wants to contribute here? What do they know about Brahati Sahasra? Any ideas? What Brahati Sahasra mean?
It is one of the chandas.
So Brahati is one of the chandas. Well done, Jagdish Bhatt. So Brahati is Brahati chandas, which is 36 syllables. Sahasra means 1000. Okay, so Brahati Sahasra is 36,000 mantras. Okay, so now Brahati Sahasra is a body of text from Rig Veda. Okay, Vishwamitra recited this, and there is a whole in Veda Vyasa talks about this quite a lot. In the Brahma Sutra also. So Brahati Sahasra, I just want you to pick up this idea of 1000 and Sahasra 1000. Okay, there are 1000 mantras which form what is called as Brahati Sahasra, and each mantra has got 36 syllables. So what I'm trying to do is, if you do a contemplation, if you recite your Vishnu Sahasranama with great devotion, actually you are purifying your body of the 36 bones, marrows, and joints is one view there. The other view is reciting Vishnu Sahasranama 1000 is very similar to reciting the 1000 mantras of Brahati Sahasra. Okay? So that is like 36,000 syllables, 36,000 letters. Okay. Now, if you take that and if you look at Swara and Vyanjana, each Swara there are 36,000 and there are 36,000 Vyanjanas. You add them together, you will get a number called 72,000. Okay. So this is all secret. This is what I was talking about, Upahvara. Yeah, secret philosophies that Yama is telling Nachiketa, which we have to learn from a Guru Mukha. Yeah. So 72,000. What does 72,000 remind us of? Who wants to answer that question? The number 72,000 should remind us of something. Pragnesh.
The answer is given next in the figure, Nadis.
Well done, Pragnesh. So Nadis, the human our body has 72,000 Nadis, 36,000 on one side, 36,000 on the other side. So when we recite Vishnu Sahasranama, that is the approach there. Vishnu Sahasranama, when you recite, it purifies your body because 1080. And if you see the maths on this side, it purifies every nadi of your body. Okay, when you recite Vishnu Sahasranama. Okay, and that is indirectly linked with the 360 bones, which is what Ya Ishtakaha Yavatirva, that Yama is talking to Nachiketa. Okay, here is another interesting view that I hope you will take home from today's talk. So why are we talking about all these numbers and nadis and bricks and bones? Because Tat Srishtva Tadeva Anupravishat. As I said in the previous verse, and as how Shilaji recited that beautiful verse from Gita, that every component of the universe is pervaded by Brahman in a specific form. He has infinite forms, of course, but every material form has an equivalent form of Brahman inside it. So similarly, in your body, if you have 36,000 nadis on the right side, 36,000 nadis on the left side, each nadi, the philosophy is pervaded by a form of Vishnu or Brahman. Okay. Now, if you take that view, that is the origin of Ardhanarishwara. For those of you who are not familiar with these concepts, because on the right side, the philosophy is on the right side, there are 36,000 nadis, and inside those 36,000 nadis are the 36,000 forms of Vishnu with a male attribute. And on the left side are 36,000 nadis of Vishnu with female attributes. So the concept of Ardhanarishwara first comes to Vishnu. So there are this Parashukla Trayas, as it's called in Vedic philosophy. Vishnu, Shiva, and Chaturmukha Brahma. These three chaps have Ardhanari concept. Okay, so Vishnu, Ardhanari, some of you in the north of India would have been to these temples. Vaikunda Kamalaja, has anybody been there? Where Vishnu is celebrated as Ardhanari and is worshipped in this temple as Ardhanari. And of course, Shiva as Ardhanari is much more prevalent and more popular. So I just wanted to give you that idea. What is the basic philosophy behind all these nadis? I have a slide talking about this, and we probably have some interactions there. So these 36,000 nadis are directly, two on either side become 72,000 nadis. That is equivalent to the Swara and Vyanjana of Brahati Sahasra. 1,000 mantras equals Vishnu Sahasranama. That Vishnu Sahasranama comes from 360 bones, marrows, and joints, and therefore Ya Ishtakaha Yavat Virva. Yeah. So this is how the Upahvara, or the secret stroke sacred knowledge of how you do your upasana within your body as a sacrifice. And we've all read this, right? That you view this body as a sacrifice. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva, Praninam Deham Ashtitaha, Prana Apana Samayuktaha, Pachami Annam Chaturvidam. How I make all this. But there is so this Upanishad gives you another dimension to it, another level as to how you approach this. Okay. Now, moving on to the third aspect, because as I said in Katha Upanishad, everything is in three. So, Ya Ishtakaha Yavatirva Yatava in three aspects: Kunda, Pinda, and Kala. Kala is even more beautiful. It's even more interesting. Look at the Kala. In our solar system, we got the earth, we got the sun, Aditya. This fellow is the fire. This chap is the fire, who is the same as in your Nihitam Guhayam, is the same as the fire in your Kunda. What happens to earth? It goes around. The Vedic astrologers or the Vedic astronomers fix that approximately it takes 360 days for earth to go around the sun. So two concepts there that come in. Number one, that earth is not the center of the solar system, and that the earth goes around the sun, and our Vedic chaps knew this always. So this is not new science that we are being taught in our schools. Our Vedic chaps knew this already. So their view was approximately it takes 360 Vedic calendars for the sun, for the earth to go around the sun, and they made this as 1 year. Okay. Now look at one full day. One full day is 24 hours. What does the number 24 mean? Gayatri Trandas. Gayatri is whom? Gayatri is the sun. Okay. And how long? What is that number of rotation of earth? 24 hours. It makes one full rotation. Okay. So all these things are all interlinked. The more you look at it, you just can't be but fascinated with the depth in which our Vedic philosophers approach this problem. So for them, 360 days is 1 year. So remember, 360 days. So you have to do this Vedic sacrifice for 360 days. You have to do your Vedic sacrifice in your body for 360 days. 360 days is 1 year. Who is a Shatakrita, the one who has had a full life on earth, is the person who has survived for 100 years. So 360 plus 100 then becomes 36,000. 36,000 daylights, 36,000 nights. That becomes the number 72,000. No surprise. Nadis, 36,000 on the right, 36,000 on the left. And Vishnu, so the contemplation there is, you and me as souls, we do this Vedic sacrifice of surrendering ourselves, whatever we do every day of our life, in that knowledge of constantly doing that surrender every moment of our life. And Yama is telling Nachiketa, that is the spirit in which you do this Swargyam Agnim. That sacrifice is how you do it. Okay. Again, here the concept of Ardhanarishwara, I just wanted to bring in. Now, the view there in the Kala is there is a Kala Namaka Paramatma, of course, the one that pervades all time. And then, of course, there is a Surya Narayana who has pervaded the sun. And then, of course, every day he is pervaded everywhere. Yeah. So you contemplate him like that when you are alive on this planet for 100 years, which is 72,000, that is 36,000 days and 36,000 nights. It's a lot of days and nights. Yeah, all that we have is 36,000 daylights. And in that 36,000 daylights, Yama is saying you have to constantly contemplate him. Yeah, that is the Agni sacrifice for the Kalanamaka Paramatma. So when he says Ya Ishtakaha, Yavatirva, Yatava, these are the three planes or the dimensions in which Yama is teaching Nachiketa this Agni sacrifice or Swargyam Agnim. Okay, so Nadis and Chakras, because there is a lot of numbers around 360, I think it'll be very, very relevant to talk about Nadis and Chakras. So I'm going to pause for a couple of minutes and let folks contribute here. Some of you have been to various, dhyana yogas and so on. So I want to hear from you as to what the views on Chakras and Nadis is, and what is the Vedic philosophy towards that. Perhaps maybe we can do sessions separately, but it becomes very relevant here. So who wants to come in here? Who is an expert in Chakras and Nadis? Anybody wants to take this one, or do you want me to just carry on? Okay, so I will do that. Just give me a minute. Let me have a sip. So the concepts of Nadis and Chakras, for those of you who are very familiar with Raja Yoga or Hatha Yoga and so on, I'm neither of this. I'm just purely viewing it from a philosophical perspective. So the way the Nadis and Chakras work is, Nadis they're considered as energy channels. They are the intermediate. So your body, so you have your body and you have your Stula Sharira or the gross body, then you have your Sukshma Sharira or the subtle bodies. How does the subtle body link up with the gross body? That is through energy channels called the Nadis and Chakras. So this is a very superficial way of looking at it, and that to me makes sense. How does the Sukshma Sharira link up with the Stula Sharira? It's through Nadis. Okay, so you have three primary Nadis, right? Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Ida is on the left side, Pingala is on the right, Ida is on the left side, Pingala is on the right side, and Sushumna runs in the middle. But these two fellows, Ida and Pingala, the energy challenge, they are supposed to crisscross. And the areas where they intersect, they become the chakras: Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Agnya, and Sahasrara. So you can read about all these things. All that I am interested in for today's talk is these Ida and Pingala. These are the main channels, but there are all the sub channels that go away from it to go to the left side of the body and the right side of the body. They form the Nadis, and those Nadis are 36,000 on the right side and 36,000 on the left side. So the Supreme pervades all 72,000 Nadis, 36,000 in a male form, 36,000 in a female form. Okay. Contemplation of one name of the Supreme heals 72 Nadis. So that is the Vishnu Sahasranama. One name, Vishwam, 72 Nadis are healed. Okay. The contemplation of 1,000 names of the Supreme heals 72,000 Nadis. Because of all the maths that I have said, we should be linked to this number 360, and in the 360 is the number of bricks, Yavati Irva. So that is the contemplation of how a fire sacrifice should be done as dictated by Yama to Nachiketa. But remember, when we study some aspect of the Upanishad, we should always do comparative analysis and see what is other Upanishad saying, what is the Vedas, for example, the Samhitas, what are they saying in this? And I can reassure you, and I've told this a million times, there is Samanvaya throughout. Everybody, every Upanishad of the Vedic mantras, they say the same thing. So you may remember, we did Purusha Shukta, right? Long time ago. And what was this verse, this beautiful verse in Purusha Shukta? Does anybody want to take this? Sudarshan, are you there? Do you want to take this up? Or anybody else, please? This
Yeah,
particular
tell me,
beautiful...
tell me. I mean, I'm here for another 5 minutes. So tell me. I mean, I can't read the Sanskrit that much. So
Okay, no worries. Saptasyasan paridayaha.
सप्तस्यासन् परितयः त्रिसप्तसमितकृताः देवायत्यज्ञन्तन्वानाः अपत्नन् पुरुषं पशुं तं यज्ञं परहिषि प्रोक्षन् पुरुषं जातमक्रतः तेन देवा अयजन्त साध्यार्षयश्च ये तस्मात् यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः रजस्सामानि जज्ञिरे छन्दागुंसि जज्ञिरे तस्मात् यजुस्तस्मादजायत तस्मादस्वा अजायन्त एके चोभयादतः गावो यजज्ञिरे तस्मात्. Is it enough? Or
Thank you, Sudarshan. So you went beautifully with the rest. I was actually engrossed in that. But the key verse that I wanted to pick was Saptasyasan Paridayaha Trishapta Samidaha Kritaha Deva Yad Yajnam Tanvanaha Abadnan Purusham Pashun. So there the number 7 is used to contemplate on how we view this body of 7. So there, what the Rishi says, Saptasyasan Paridaya, the boundaries, the fences of this body are 7. What are those? 7 chakras that I spoke to you about, the Nadis. The 7 chakras are the 7 endocrine glands, or the 7 dhatus. And the 3 saptaha samidaha, the sticks for the yajna, or the 21 sticks. What are those 21 sticks? The 21 sticks, the Purusha Shukta then talks about Manasa Yajna, your Indriyas, and so on and so forth. That is so beautiful in Purusha Shukta. So when you combine what is that Purusha Shukta is telling and what is Nachiketa saying to Yama, they're all saying the same thing. What are they saying? Purusha Meda. Okay. What is Meda? Meda means sacrifice. Say, for example, if you go to Brihadaranyak Upanishad, the first Brahmanam is Ashwa Brahmanam. Second Brahmanam is Ashwamedha Brahmanam. The fire, the sacrifice of the horse, Ashwamedha. Okay, that is hopefully we'll deal with all that at some point. But they are all amazing Brahmanams of Brihadaranyak Upanishad. But essentially what Purusha Shukta and Yama is saying is this Purusha Meda chaps. This is what our friend Yama is saying. Purusha Meda means total surrender. Yeah, surrender your body, which is the kunda, and you do your sacrifice in this kunda, surrendering whatever you do with this body as a sacrifice to the Supreme. Okay, so this is what our friend Yama is saying when he says Trinachiketaha Tribiretya Sandhim Trikarma Krit Tarati Janma Mrityuhu. That is the next verse. So once you have understood what that Ya Ishtakaha Yavatirva Yatava 3, then you will understand what is it that Yama is saying here. Trinachiketaha. What are these Trinachiketaha? Kunda, Pinda, and Kala. The sacrifice. Then he says, Tribir Yetya Sandhim. Sandhi is an interesting word. Sandhi means, Sandhim means Sandhi, Sanda, Anusandana. What is the approach? What is the contemplation? With what spirit that you do? That is Sandhim. Tribir. Tribir means 3. So we all know what is Trayi. What is Tribi? What is 3? What is Trayi? What does Trayi stands for? Who's going to answer that question? Trayi is a name for, so Trayi is a name for Vedas. Vedas are also called Trayis. Padya, Gadya, and Gana. So I've got this here for you. Yeah. So Trayi, Tribiretya Sandhyam. So when you do this kunda, you just go and randomly sit and throw stuff here and there. You have to have a catalog, an instruction manual, right? You need to have an instruction manual when you do it. What is your instruction manual for your sacrifice? Be it in kunda or in pinda or in kala, what is your manual? The manual is Tribiretya Sandhim. It is your Vedas, which is what? Padya, Gadya, and Gana. The branches are 4, but Vedas are only 3 types. Padya, Gadya, Gana. Poetry, prose, and music, the only forms of communication. So here is another beautiful mathematics for you. So when we have done this introduction, we have said Rig has 24 shakas. Yajur has Krishna and Shukla, 86 Upashaka and 15 Upashaka. Sama has got 1000 Upashakas. Atharva has got 12 Upashakas. So if you add this, again, this is all not, the Upashakas are not randomly designed. Okay, we have never discussed this before, and this is an opportunity to discuss this. The 24, 101, 1012 Upashakas have been established not at random. There is a science behind it. The 24 is the celebration of the Supreme as celebrated in the Gayatri Mantra. Tat savituhu varenyam bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yonaha prachodayat. So the Rig Veda has got 24 shakas, and the Gayatri Mantra, which comes from Rig Veda, as you know, celebrates Lord Vishnu, looking at his 24 aspects. 101, there are Ajadi and other names of the Supreme that are celebrated in 101. 1000, you all know 1000, Vishnu Sahasra Nama. Okay, it is celebrated, it's sung, right? It's sung in the praise of Vishnu. So that is why Vishnu Sahasra Nama is 1000 to simplify this. And the 12, number 12, 12 syllables, yeah? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So these are 12 syllables. That is why Atharva Veda has got 12 Upashakas. So all these things make sense. So when you add these Upashakas, it's 1 plus 1, 1137. Add the individual numbers. 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 7 is 12. 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay. 1137 is divisible only by 3. Yeah, it is not divisible by any numbers. And that is what is a Triviretya Sandhim. Okay. And this Triviretya Sandhim, how do you do your Kunda, Pinda, Kala sacrifice? By looking at the Vedas, using the formula given by Veda Vyasa in the 4th sutra called Tattu Samanvayat. Wherever in the whole spirit of the Vedas is, they are declaring the same thing. They are declaring, they are unanimous in what they say. There is no internal contradiction in the Vedas at all. There is nothing called Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Everything is about the celebration of the Supreme. Okay? That is the Triviretya Sandhim in which you conduct your life. External activities in Kunda, your bodily activities in Pinda, and for however long you live on this earth in Kala. Okay? What do? You and me as human beings, what is it that we should do? Tri karma krit. That is what Yama said. So, Tri Nachiketa Triviretya Sandhim Tri karma krit. If you do Tri karma krit, Tarati Janma Mrityuhu. He who does the Tri karma krit will cross the world of birth and death. Tarati Janma Mrityuhu. That means he will go to the non-material plane of doing Trikarma Krit. So the next question, and hopefully I think we should finish at this point and then capture the other concepts next week. So Trikarma Krit, what is this Trikarma Krit? This is again very puzzling as to what the Trikarma Krit actually is. Okay. Now to understand what Trikarma Krit, you have to go to Bhagavad Gita, and that is why it is another proof that what Yama says is documented in Gita, because as you know, Gita is the essence of the Vedas and the Upanishad. So Trikarma Krit, 3 karmas. Trikarma means 3 karmas. What are the 3 karmas? So I am just going to take this verse to remind you what is the 3 karmas. The 3 karmas is what is described in the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, the whole philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, Yama actually summarizes in this verse. Trinachiketaha Triviretya Sandhim Trikarma Krit Tarati Janma Mrityuhu. So you memorize this verse and think about this in every day of your life. The whole of Bhagavad Gita should come fall into place with that. Okay, so what is this Trikarma Krit? Krishna is giving the definition here. Yajna Dana Tapaha Karma. Karmas are 3. Yajna Dana Tapaha Karma Natyajam Karyameva Tat. Yajno Danam Tapaschaiva Pavanani Manishinam. Okay, so without going into the details, I just want to read the purport that I picked up from Mukundananda's work. Sacrifice, charity, and penance are karmas that should never be abandoned. They must certainly be performed. Indeed, acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are purifying even for those who are wise. So that is 1805 is what Gita, this particular purport is talking about. But my aim here is to pick up the Trikarma Krit of Yama and actually to remind us what is Yama talking about, because this is all the secret and the sacred language of the Upanishads. So Yagnadana Tapaha Karma Natyajam Karyameva Tat Yajno Danam Tapaschaiva Pavanani Manishinam. So now Yajna and Dana and Tapaha. So what is Krishna saying? What is Yajna? What is Dana? And what is Tapaha? I'm very grateful for folks to step in at the last minute to do work on this so that we have an interactive session on this. So I'm going to request Neeta and Shushu to take up verse 17:11 and contribute there, please. So over to you, Shushu and Neeta.
Namaskar. I'm starting with 1806.
You want to do 8? Okay, so Shushrut, in that case, do you want to hang on to 1806? We are going to come in the sequence, the logics of concepts. So can I ask Neeta ji then to go for 1711? And then I'll come to you, Shushrut, for 1806, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Hari Om. So 1711. Apala kankshibhir yajno vidhitrishto ya ijyate yashtavyameveti manaha samadhaya sasatvikaha. So what this means is it's a sacrifice, the yajna. Again, we have to remember that yajna is not, as Madhuji has mentioned, not just putting things in the fire and saying, it's also doing any puja or satsanga that we are doing now. That's all the yajna that we do. And we have to follow, it has to be aphala kankshibhir, means with no desire for the phalas or the rewards. And it has to be vidhi drishto, means following the scriptures. What Madhuji was mentioning just now is following the instruction manuals, the Vedas. We have to follow those properly and understand the meaning of what we are doing. That is what this means. And this is a duty of everyone. We have to all do this. And this is the Satvika Yajna. We all think that all the yajnas are good, but no, there is Satvika, Rajasa, and Tamasa Yajna. And this is the Satvika Yajna. You can also read the things that is the meaning that is written here, but that is the summary of this particular, this shloka. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeta ji. Yeah, very beautifully put. So that's in simple yajna is also called Yaja Deva Pujanam. So whatever yajna, this could be us going to work, us doing ward rounds, or us being a software engineer or whatever. Yeah, so that is done in the spirit of Yaja Deva Pujanam as a submission to the Supreme is what yajna that Yama is talking about. So moving on to Dana or charity, and what is Krishna is saying in verse 1720, Veena ji is going to take up from Ahmedabad.
दातव्यमिति यद्दानं दीयते नुपकारिणे देशे काले च पात्रे च तद्दानं सात्विकं स्मृतम्.
Suresh, good evening. Just to dwell into it, dana, giving, Krishna qualifies it beautifully. What's the right type of giving? Two words very critical, datavyam and anupakarine. The one that is given with no obligations and without any expectation. It's not just giving for the sake of giving. I mean, the joy of giving, and the giving needs to be given to the deserving, considering the time and place. It's not just giving whatever we feel like. It is giving what is appropriate to the adhikari, to the deserving, considering the time and place of giving. Only such type of giving would qualify as towards the mode of goodness.
Thank you, Sureshji. So in the Trikarma Krit, we have done Yajna and Dana as what Krishna has said. Then next we move to Tapaha. So this Tapaha is a very, very interesting concept. It is not going to the forest under the tree, closing your eyes and doing some penance. penance are of so many types that Krishna talks about in 17th chapter, and Veena ji followed by Pratibha and Ramesh are going to deal with these verses. So Veena and Suresh, do you want to take on 17-14, please?
देवद्विजगुरु प्राज्ञपूजनं शौचमार्जवं ब्रह्मचर्यमहिंसा च शारीरं तप उच्यते.
Here, Krishna, as Madhu was saying, gives a wonderful definition of what tapaha is, tapassu is. Tapaha, as I was listening to it, can be, I mean, wherever there is tapaha, there is no pataha, there is no patana. This is something that prevents us from doing wrong. Anything that prevents us from doing wrong is a form of tapaha. And in this shloka, Krishna is beautifully describing the tapas that we do, daihika tapas, the bodily form of tapas. And tapas there is interpreted as it could be seen as bringing discipline to life, or it's also used in the context of training the body, be it in terms of upvasa or anything else, such that we are prepared to do penance in the trikarna forms of mind, body, and my mind. I mean, our conduct, our words that we speak, the talk, and the training of the mind. In this shloka per se, what Krishna says is the bodily penance consists, I mean, doing worship of God. So apart from God, he gives us 3 or 4 other examples. The second is, he says, Dvijita, the second born, which is the people who are in the, who have now in the pursuit of knowledge. People who have given the knowledge to us are gurus. And even above them are the people who have actually perceived God. So it is the respect and the worship of such individuals. And then it's done with cleanliness of the body, shaucham, and arjavam, with this simple and straightforward conduct and control of senses. When one respects and worships these respectable souls with these characteristics, is the bodily tapas that Krishna is talking about here.
Thank you, Suresh. Over to Pratibha and Ramesh to tell us about, so as you know, kayena manasa vacha. Okay, so any tapas that you do can be bodily or speech or mind. Those are the 3 actions that we do, right? Either using the body or with speech or with mind. And all those things can be tapaha for us in our day-to-day life. So Suresh and Veena ji did a beautiful piece on, from a bodily perspective, what is the tapas. So then we move on to, from speech and from our thought, what is that tapas that Krishna is talking about. So over to Pratibha ji and Ramesh ji, please, from Dubai.
अनुद्वेगकरं वाक्यं सत्यं प्रियहितं च यत् स्वाध्यायाभ्यसनं चैव वाङ्मयं तप उच्यते. Here he says, words which cause no annoyance to others and are truthful, agreeable and beneficial, as well as the study of the Vedas and other Shastras, and the practice of chanting of the divine names. This is known as penance of speech. I'll go to the next one.
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go for it.
Mana prasada saumyatvam maunamatma vinigraha bhava samshuddhirityetat tapo manasamuchyate. Cheerfulness of mind, placidity, habit of contemplation on God, control of the mind, and perfect purity of inner feelings. All this is called the austerity of mind. This is all, everything is, you can make out, but I just found a beautiful poem in what Madhusudan ji sent in the same Bhagavad Gita, Mukundanand ji's Bhagavad Gita. I felt this is really nice, a small poem, but I'll just read it out. I hold it true that thoughts are things. They are endowed with bodies and breath and wings. Though which we call our secret thought, speeds forth to earth's remotest spot, leaving its blessings or its woes like tracks behind as it goes. We build our future thought by thought,
for good or ill, yet know it not. Choose then thy destiny and wait, for love brings love and hate brings hate. Each thought we dwell upon has consequences, and thought by thought we forge our destiny. For this reason, to veer the mind from negative emotions and make it dwell upon the positive sentiments is considered austerity of the mind.
Beautiful, Pratibha ji. Very, very nice poem, and thanks for sharing that that amazing piece. So, Yajna, Dana, and Tapaha, and when Yama has said Trikarma, and when Krishna has said Yajna, Dana, Tapaha is the karma, and Krishna himself has given the definition of it, it makes a lot of sense for us to actually look at this very, very carefully. What is it that Yama is saying? To understand what Yama is saying, we have to go to Gita. Okay, so that is what I wanted to stress here. And of course, these verses are amazing verses, but it takes a whole life of practice to master this art of doing yajna, dana, tapaha, possibly several lives. But I want to invite Sushruti now to complete this sequence with what is it that Krishna summarizes in 1806. So Sushruti.
एतान्यपि तु कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा फलानि च कर्तव्यानिति मे पार्थ निश्चितं मम उत्तमम्. These activities must be performed without attachment and expectation for rewards. This is my definite and supreme verdict, O Arjuna. So what he is trying to say in this shloka is that these acts of yajna, dana, and tapa should be done with the mood of devotion to the Supreme Lord. If we cannot do that with devotion, then they should be done as a matter of duty at the very least, but it should be done without any desire for rewards. So there are several other shlokas which say that there should be detachment from rewards. So this is one of them.
Wonderful, Sushruti. Thank you so much. So I hope it gives you an overview of how beautifully the construction of words is from Yama to Nachiketa, and in a very, very cryptic form. But I don't think we should waste our time just to say, oh yes, it's cryptic form and leave it at that. No, I think through Guru Mukha, what we have learned from her gurus, we should share this widely and use the verses from the Gita. Gita is at our disposal for exactly for this. And try and understand where Nachiketa is being taught by Yama. And clearly what Yama is teaching is what Krishna is teaching Arjuna. So there is complete samanvaya here with regards to what is going on. So I just want to finish today's class, just a reminder. So what does it saying? When you say Trinachiketaha, Kunda, Pinda, and Kala, 360 bricks, 360 bones, 360 days, do a complete surrender as per instruction of the Vedas, Tribiretya Sandhim, and then conduct your life. What is that? Yajna, dana, tapaha, karma. And when you do that, what happens? Tarati janma mrityuhu. What is the benefit? That is the path to liberation. Okay, so this is very, very important here. It is a path to liberation, but just doing this, without having the knowledge of the Brahman, the knowledge of the Supreme towards whom you're doing all these sacrifice, is not going to, it will help you to some extent, but it will not, it's not going to help you completely. But Yama here he says, Tarati Janma Mrityuhu, if you follow this complete surrender as per the Vedas, conduct your life. That is the path to liberation. So on the right here, I've got this cartoon. We as souls have a linga sharira, sukshma sharira, and a stula sharira. Our karmic imprints on this sukshma sharira. When we shut this gross body, based on our karmic imprints, we eventually will acquire more and more bodies. We might go to heaven for some, we may go to heavenly planets and enjoy some stuff, but still again, we may come to this mrityu loka. But those who do this, what will happen to them? They will eventually shed off their karmic imprints. And without karma, if your linga sharira has no karmas, then you have no further recycling in this birth and death. And when that happens, you go to Satyaloka here with Chaturmukha Brahma. And when Chaturmukha Brahma span comes to an end, the Mahakalpa Pralaya as it's called, then you all cross the Viraja Nadi, shed your Linga Sharira and cross over to the non-material plane where there is no birth and death. You are eternally existing in a state of eternal bliss. So that is Tarati Janma Mrityuhu. Okay, so I just want to close today just to introduce this slide. Trikarma Krit alone is not sufficient for liberation, but knowledge of Brahman and conduct the Trikarma Krit is the only solution. So there are two sides to this coin. One you do in that spirit, but you know who this chap is, who this Brahman to whom you're going to surrender. How are you going to do that Purusha Meda? As discussed in Purusha Shukta. How is Brahman to be known? Immediately Yama in the very next line, he gives you the key concepts of how that God should be known, in which you do your Trikarma Krit. Brahma Jagnyam Devamediam Viditva Nichayam Imam Shantim Atyantam Eti. So that we will deal with next week, because I had 25 slides. I think I was a bit too ambitious today. So we got a few more slides to cover. And believe me, each one of this slide, each one of this text and wordings from Yama is so profound in its own right. So we will deal with it next week. But so far, just to remind ourselves, what we have done is we have kind of revised what we have done so far. Then we have now made our pravesha into the second boon of Nachiketa, and we are talking about this Agni and this sacrifice. And then what Yama is going to be doing for us in the next class is he's actually going to talk to us about this Brahman, who this chap is and how you have to know him and so on. And then he will close the second vara, and our friend Nachiketa is going to ask the third vara, which is absolutely beautiful. That is the crux of Katha Upanishad. The main factor, the main philosophy of Katha Upanishad is the third boon that Nachiketa asks and the conversation that ensues after that. It's really an interesting sequence of events, and the rest of the Katha Upanishad follows on from the third vara, which we will deal with in the next fortnight. So what I wanted to do is, for the next 2 weeks, because we have backlogged quite a bit, I will do the sessions next week and the following which we will have a Gita session in about 3 weeks from now, and we'll take that particular chapter from Gita and then discuss that in detail. So as ever, this is a very interactive group. So we will find volunteers to take that Gita session in 3 weeks time. Okay. So on that note, Krishna Pranamastu. I'll close today's session and we can have any discussion, any quick Q&A that you might have. Thank you. Pragnesh, yes.
Because I was quite keen on that chakra slide, on the left, the first slide of chakra with Nadis, on the left corner, there were few slokas from Taittiriya Upanishad.
Yeah, okay, yes, yes. Can you see that?
Possibly you didn't touch because of the time, but I would like to, if you could kindly expand on that, please.
Yeah, sure, let's do that.
Sorry for being greedy.
No problem. So let me see. Yes, this is the verse. Yeah. So this is your famous verse, Pragnesh, in Taittiriya Upanishad. So this one is, it's talking about creation and how God brought creation into being and how in every aspect of the creation, he pervaded every aspect of the creation. So akamayat bahusyam prajayeya iti sa tapo atapyata sa tapas taptva idam sarvam asrujata. Yadidam kincha tat shrushtva tadeva anupravishata tad anupravishya shacha tyacha abhavat. So essentially what this particular Valli, this is called Brahmanda Valli, of the second Valli of Taittiriya Upanishad, talks about the sequence of creation, and the key verse is Tadeva Anupravishata, and I brought this on several occasions in our forum to remind us God, there is difference of views, but I am just giving this view from Taittiriya Upanishad. When you look at the Taittiriya Upanishad, it says Tad eva anu pravishat. Pravishat means pervades. Tad, that Brahman, eva, only, anu. Anu means in the way it needs to be done. pravishate. So this verse is very clear where Brahman say, where the Vedas, Taittiriya Upanishad, which as you know is again Krishna Yajur Veda. So that says God pervades his creation. Okay, so that is an important wording there. There are two, as you know, there are three views of creation. One is this creation is a superimposition of Brahman. The second one is this material creation is a transformation of Brahman. And the third view is there is this material universe. What God does is like how a potter creates his pot. God creates the universe using Mula Prakriti, and he pervades that creation and maintains its reality, objecthood of knowledge, and volition. Okay, so this is a key verse that supports the third view of God pervades. So when he pervades all his creation, what are all the creations? The creations of the bodies, the energy channels, the nadis, the chakras, they are all creations that are, they are all material in one form or the other. Okay, so that is a basic fact. They're all material of one form or the other. And in each of these material nadis and chakras, there is a form of the Supreme that is inside that, looking after it. Okay, and in the bodies there are 72,000 nadis, and there are similarly 72,000 forms of the Supreme. And in Vishnu Sahasranama, if you take 1,000 names, each name of these Vishnu Sahasranama heals 72,000 nadis. So that was how I was directing it. So it is Taittiriya Upanishad. I hope it made sense.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Madhu, this is Harish. One question is the specifics of the yajna you mentioned is not described in the Upanishad. Is that really to make the point that this anusandhana that you went through is more important and pertinent, or is there a reference to the actual technique for those that might be interested in it?
Yeah, so sure. Harish, that's a very good question. I think the issue about yavatirva yatava, ya ishtakaha yavatirva yatava, but not describing that, is number one, to illustrate. So it is not that Yama did not teach that to Nachiketa. Yama taught this to Nachiketa, absolutely. But when Kata Rishi has seen it and subsequently documented, they have not gone on elaboration to describe this, because to keep it secret and sacred knowledge so that it's not misused and misinterpreted. That's how the tradition has always been. But the formula of all this, you will find this all along the Vedas. They are there everywhere in the Vedas, in the Samhitas and Brahmana sections, and in Yajur Veda and the prescriptions of Yajana and so on. These numbers and how you do it, it's all there. And what you can do is, when, for example, you listen to or you take that teaching from your guru, what they do is they put everything, concentrate this for us and give it to us in our benefit. It's up to individuals to go and read all the Vedas and pick the knowledge, what Yama is saying from various aspects of the Vedas. But that, as you know, is going to take a long time. But again, that illustrates one key concept, Harish, is individual effort. That is a key concept of Vedic Rishis. There is always that individual effort. I will give you a direction, mate. You go and find out the answer. That is how it has been in the Upanishads. Everything is not put on the table for us to consume. You have to make your own effort. And that is one of the reasons why this is done, is how I have learned it, Harish.
Okay, no, thanks for that.
Okay, so on that note, can I request Harish to recite Om for us, please, and we close today's session.
Madhu, can I ask a challenging question?
Yeah.
Why is it that our religion wants to keep this all secret? I can understand if the point is that the philosophy is deeper than what